So getting laid off, that's been the quite the topic in the past probably year, um, and conversation among artists. We have seen so many layoffs happening in the industry, from big companies to small companies. We personally know people that have been laid off, and so I've been wanting to do this video for probably over a month now. I have some notes that I want to write in, but I wasn't planning on doing it now. I literally just woke up like an hour ago, but I just wanted to do it, talk about it, and pretty much give you uh, sort of like how I'm preparing for it. This is one of those things where you sort of know that it's gonna come at some point, if not, more than once. And so this is something that has been happening in the industry at least since I've been in the industry, which has been for over a decade. And so I just wanna share with you guys, three things that I normally, or that I actually have prepared, and the way I think about it. And so I just want to have a little chat about it. I don't have anything like a big script or anything, so this video is probably gonna be different from the other ones. Just not gonna have a lot of structure to it. Probably not even an intro or anything like that. Um, so the first one, I think the very first thing that I do is to make a plan, right? So layoffs in this industry is pretty common. It's not like it happens every day, but it happens quite often. And so I think that's we can take that sort of as an advantage, right? Even though it's a very dire, unfortunate situation to whoever happens, but I think now that we know that it happens quite often, especially in the gaming industry, I think we can actually take that as an advantage and make a plan, right? So that would be the first thing, make a plan. And what I mean by that is that if you know that something is coming, you can sort of prepare for it, right? It's more unfortunate when something comes out of nowhere and you had no idea. And that could be from anything, right? From layoffs, deaths in the family, a passing of somebody, or an accident in the driveway or something like that, right? So we sort of know that it's coming, so we can actually make a plan. And the way I like to do it is that, um, the way I like to make a plan is, I want to mitigate as many surprises as possible, for this, right? And we're just gonna talk about laying off for now. I don't want to have any surprises about it. Whenever it comes and whenever I get the news, yes, I will be sad and it's gonna be unfortunate, but now I can execute on that plan, right? And that's gonna look different from everybody, right? Because everybody have, you know, different life situations, in their life and in their industry and their career, and so you sort of have to figure out, that in a sense. The way I like to, some of the stuff that me and my wife do is that if I lose my job, so we put ourselves in certain situations, right? And for example, if I lose my job, what are gonna be the steps that we are gonna take, right? What are gonna be the all the memberships that we're gonna cancel? How are we gonna reduce as much as possible all the spending that we have, right? So we cut off the gym, we cut off all the memberships, we cut off anything that is not for living, right? Um, and that's sort of like the first step. That way, we sort of like mitigate, and reduce the expenses as much as possible, right? And I think that's huge, right? So we don't want to, if we go into the worst case scenario, we don't want to keep living how we're living, right? We want to live with whatever situation we're in, and we want to adapt to it, and that way we reduce the risk as much as possible. Um, but that's sort of like just one step out of many, right? We live pretty frugally, but what I don't want for people is to live, or the strategy to be hope, right? So the hope of, I'm not gonna get laid off in the next year, or hope that, oh, if I get laid off, I'm gonna find something within the couple of weeks, right? Because hope is not a really good strategy. It's okay to have it, but we need to have tangible a tangible process that we can execute as soon as an emergency happens, right? And another another situation could be like me and my wife. We know, like, for example, if I die, we have put things in place, and we sort of have like a pipeline pretty much of what happens if I die or if she dies or something in that matter happens. And it's hard, to prepare for those things because it's hard to talk about. But if you think about when it happens, you don't want to have the added stress of trying to figure out what to do, right? And so if you already know what to do, then you can really focus on dealing with the emergency in the more emotional sense about it, right? Whether it's a layoff or a death or anything like that. So it's very important to have that pipeline, that map, that plan whenever that happens, and that way you sort of know what to do when that situation happens, and there's no surprises. Now that's the first thing. The second thing is to fully have, and I would say, a 6 month emergency fund of money of your expensive, right? So I have a certain amount of, and you will hear, 3 to 6 months, but it's kind of depending on what industry you're in. In our case, during these times, it makes more sense to have 6 months at least of expenses saved up in liquid money. And what I mean liquid is like easy accessible, and I'll get checking or saving account that you can just go to the bank, get money out the same day. And the having that fund, it's crucial because you take that huge stress, which is money, which is really what this is mostly all about, or at least the majority part. When you lose a job, right, you just don't have money to pay the bills. And yeah, like in layoffs, you lose friends, not lose friends, but you don't work with them anymore, and the project, maybe you're super passionate about the project, but really, the big thing here is the money. You just don't have the money to pay the bills. And so I think with a 6 month emergency fund, like, you really can breathe and really make better decisions under less stress. And so me and my wife have that fund too, in order for us to, if something happens, then I know that the house is gonna get paid off for the next 6 to 8 months, or if we have some sort of another emergency, like the car breaks and we have like $1,000 or 2,000, whatever the case may be, expense, like, we know that we have that money set aside for that. And this is money that we don't really think of it as anything else other than insurance, right? So this is money that is just staying there for just in case, for that rainy day, right? This is not investing money. This is not money for vacation. This is not money to pay off credit cards if you have any. This money, so and the way I like to do it is I sort of have it like on a separate bank that I don't even go to, and so that money is just there, and I forgot about it. It's there, but I know that once something happens, I can just go to the bank and take it. Now, just to give you a little backstory, me and my wife paid about $130,000 in debt in about 2 to 3 years. But that whole plan of paying off all our debt was also part of our strategy or plan, in order for us to, if an emergency happens, we don't have that weighted, weight of paying debt to somebody else, right? Like a car or student loans or credit cards, etc. And so I got super passionate about it once we went through that process a couple years ago. Now we do have debt now. The house, that's the only debt that we have, but that's just a house, which hopefully we'll plan to pay it off early. But other than that, we don't have student loan or a car, or anything like that, as debt. And I got super passionate about it because I think that's when we went through that process, it was just like eye opening to the possibilities that you can have and the stuff that you can create after that. And I got certified as a financial coach last year, and so I'm trying to help people with setting up budgets and getting out of debt, understanding like their finances, like the things that they can do and not do, depending on their situation. And so we even wrote like a little book of our journey during that process, and we have a free sort of like budget tracker, because I think budgets are like super. It's probably one of the most important things that you can do every single month. And so we have like a free one that you can download, and a book that you can read and stuff. And I'll put the link below. But using that budget helped us a lot, month to month, sort of like create that plan in order to get out of debt. But also to fund that 6 month emergency fund that we desperately need, right? And so I just want you to think like, if I get laid off today, can I survive? If I don't find a job, can I survive with the money that I have saved for the next 3 to 6 months, right? And if you haven't thought about that, and you think about it and it scares you, it should, because you should have that cushion to fall back on when something tragic like that happens. But that's my second tip: the emergency fund, 6 months. And then the third thing is diversify, right? So this could mean a lot of things. This could mean start side hustles outside of the art industry. Maybe you have a passion for something else, right? Like for example, I have a passion to talk about finances and talk about money and help people get out of debt, and budgeting and all that stuff. Like I love that. I love numbers. Um, but also it's just to create multiple sources of income. Now, this is sort of like optional. Like you don't, like a lot of people, they just don't do that. They just have their one job, 9 to 5 or whatever hours you work in the day, and that's it. They go to their house and home, and they're fine and happy, and that's totally fine. But I think everything comes with a price, right? So when the way I thought about it was like, I'd rather in my early 30s or for the past decade or so, I just wanted to really use all my free time to develop skills and develop all the things that maybe if I lose my job, maybe I have a little bit of extra money doing something else on the side, and I don't have to start that whole process again to do that. And so I thought about it in the worst case scenario, as in like, I lose my job, and then it takes me a year, 6 months to find another art job, right? Or maybe I find an art job in the next month that maybe I really dislike. Maybe I don't like the project or whatever the case may be. But I'm thinking in the worst case, how can I prepare for that? But I also want to have all the things that will bring in money, even if it's just a little bit. But also you can see this also as if you are, for example, a concept artist that you just draw characters for a company. You can also diversify your skills, right? So maybe you can learn a little bit of 3D, maybe you can learn a bit of Unreal or environment design or coding or whatever the case may be, but within the same industry. And you just develop that skill because you're already good at the other skill because you're hired for it, right? And so you can take your time off to develop other skills, and that way you have a bigger pool of clients that you can attract doing all these different skills. And so I think that's also super important if you want to stay within the same industry. So not only you can get hired to, do illustrations for fantasies, a fantasy card game, but you can also do illustrations for book covers or music labels or, whatever the case may be, right? So I think diversifying in that sense, I think is super crucial. It's a lot easier because you're already in the industry. You just have to navigate those skills. But I think that's extremely important, and also a good part of your plan in case something like a layoff happens. And if you're a freelancer, I think you sort of have to do that because you want to have clients constantly, right? You don't want to start with a client and then look for the next one. You want to be already setting the ones up. And so I want to, these are sort of like my main three things. There's a lot of things that we could do, especially with the monetary stuff. But I just want to share that with you guys. I know it's been quite a bit of crazy times, but I wanted to share these thoughts, get them out, and hopefully this will be of any help with you guys.